Hi everyone, I'm Josh.
And I'm Jim, and this is the Dapper Meeple.
This show is about our love of gaming, the games we play, and the gaming community around this passion.
So pull up a chair, put on your Dapper Meeple hat, and join us at the table. Hey kids, remember, this is an adult podcast and may contain adult language.
Also, Dapper Meeple hat, not required.
Hey guys, today we got a real treat. We've got the team coming in from BA Games.
Ed and Dave are going to come in and talk about a successful Kickstarter of their game Cult of the Deep, what it's like designing a game, as well as just some general, what do you like about gaming talk.
And then, later on, Sam will join us as well, and we'll do a round of Know Your Character.
All that and more on this episode of the Dapper Meeple.
All right, so this week we had the pleasure of getting contacted by the guys over at BA Games. So we have Ed and Dave with us. If you guys want to introduce yourself, Ed, you can go ahead and start. Yeah, tell us a little bit about where you, about what you guys do, and then we'll let Dave chime in.
Sounds good, man. So I'm Ed Stockton. I'm one of the co-founders of BA Games. We recently kind of had a Kickstarter about a year ago now. So I'm actually out here traveling for work out here in Virginia. So I was just, perusing the local board game stores and things like that. Came across your card and checked out your website. So I guess at a podcast, got in contact. He was super excited about being here. And that's pretty much me in a nutshell, man.
Nice. Dave?
Yeah. So I've been around, so I'm Ed and Sam's younger brother. They're both the founders of BA Games. I started as a playtesting guinea pig, and now I am officially a game designer for BA Games. Other than that, this is my first podcast, so I'm excited to be here. Like to see how this goes.
Nice. I will tell you that I'm a big advocate for using younger brothers as the test subject for anything.
Yes, I'm a big advocate of being a test subject, I guess. It's the way it goes.
Yeah, awesome. So we'll get into the game. We'll talk about the company and stuff. First, I have a question that I haven't heard answered yet in any of the questions. BA Games, what is that? What is BA?
So I wish Sam was here. So he's the other half of the original co-founder. So it was me and Sam that originally co-founded. So I'm the oldest of... Well, I'm actually second oldest of 5, so I'm number 2, and Sam is number 3, Dave is number 4. And so lots of guinea pigs to try things on for younger brothers, right? Anyways, long story short, when he was this is early 90s, right? So I'm 10 and Sam's 7. Those old tape decks that you hit record on?
Yeah.
So, rapping was big with MC Hammer and that kind of thing. Needless to say, he got a hold of a tape recorder and he made his own rap song, and it was called Brothers Awesome.
Nice.
Dude, Brothers Awesome. Some kind of weird nonsense, right? I wish I had it.
I was going to say, if you still had that tape, it would be gold right now.
Oh, man, I would show it to everyone. It would make me so happy on the inside, and he would be so red in the face all the time. Sadly, Sam can't be here because he's at Adepticon this weekend.
Nice.
So he's over in Chicago doing that kind of thing. Real heavy into the miniatures is what he really enjoys outside of board games and obviously TTRPGs. So yeah, that's what BA Game stands for. A lot of people assume the other.
Right.
We hope to make that type of game. That's the point.
Right.
But it actually is Brothers Awesome.
That's fantastic.
Based off of some old rap from my younger brother.
We did the same thing as soon as we're like, what do you think that means?
Obviously, the first and obvious answer, we're like, it's probably that. It can't be that, but maybe.
So I know for us, we do a lot of board games. We're big into TTRPGs. I am venturing into Warhammer for my first time. Definitely, Josh was a Magic player all the way through college. So, we've kind of been around the space for a while. What kind of drew you in? How did you get to here where you're developing your own board games?
So we've been involved in the hobby since growing up, we moved around a lot.
Yeah.
So when you move around a lot, you don't have a lot of friends because you move to new places. So your friends are obviously your family, and being all brothers and stuff like that. So I grew up with Heroescape, Battle Lore, all those old Mutant Chronicles, that kind of thing. And that's where a lot of the time was spent and things like that. And that grew into a love of board games. It's interesting is I'm very heavier into board games.
Okay.
My older brother Matt, he's the oldest. He's very much more into the miniature side of the house. Yep. Sam's into the miniature side of the house. Obviously we've done all all of it. Right?
Yeah, right.
But Sam kind of did a lot of things in high school with the TTRPG inside of the house, which then kind of evolved into the miniature side of the house and the board gaming side of the house. I used to do a lot of miniatures, but then I just don't have as much time to paint and things like that.
Yeah. So I'm quite a bit younger than Sam and Ed. There's a 12-year difference between me and Sam, and a 14-year difference between like me and Ed.
Right.
And so I didn't grow up necessarily the same way that they did, but I always remember as a kid, they would tape off a giant, rectangle on the living room carpet, and they'd play Warhammer, or they would play, other kinds of games. I remember like family game, like they'd be playing like Ninja Burger or like Munchkin or something on like the dinner table, right? Yep. And so I always remember that, and that was like my first exposure. So I always wanted to do those things, but I was just never quite old enough yet.
Yeah.
And later on, probably in high school, I started to pick up Magic a little bit, and I knew that Sam played some Magic, but I picked up Magic, playing it during lunch hours and stuff. Later on, after high school, I actually worked for a game store in my hometown, and I picked up comic books, Magic the Gathering. I had a couple Warhammer armies. I started playing a lot more board games, things like that. Right now, I am in love with BattleTech, and
I've seen it.
Board games. So yeah,
nice. It seems like you guys are pretty well rounded, just in the community. A little bit of everything.
Yeah, pretty much. It's kind of nice when you have that many siblings and brothers or friends, right? You all enjoy everything, but personality-wise, different people are attracted to different things or different stages in life. Like I really got into real board games because, man, painting all those miniatures. I like playing the miniatures, but man, painting it, I enjoy it, but not as much as some of my other brothers and stuff. So.
Right. I know that's like I said, I'm just venturing into it. We went to PAX this year, and I picked up a copy of Kill Team.
Yeah.
So that was I was like, I don't want to build a whole army, but I could do 10 dudes, right? Like, and then I realized I had to do 20, and now I've got like 3 other kill teams to paint.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I see how that goes.
You got the bug.
Yeah, it happened. It happened.
I've been fortunate enough to stay far away from that bug. Although our last episode we haven't put out yet, we actually interviewed the guy who runs the local games workshop. He came in with us and he brought in a bunch of stuff, and he was like, I know you don't really like miniatures, but here's our miniature / board game. And I was like, don't you do it. I'm not going to do it. So yeah, it's good times. We're definitely well-rounded in the hobby as well. We enjoy board games a lot, and TTRPGs is really where we find ourselves more often than not.
Right.
So one of the things we wanted to kind of talk to you guys too, now that we got kind of your background, what led you to want to be actual designers?
That's a good question. So I wish Sam was here.
Right.
He was actually the original designer. So this would have been Gen Con. Was it 2019, Dave, or 2018?
2018. Yes, 2018.
2018. Right. Sam has been kind of toying with it. And so we've always talked about, like, hey, we're going to open some game store. We're going to all do this thing. And Sam actually took the time to create something. He created a couple different things. And then so I think we were there at Gen Con. We were hanging out, and Sam's like, hey, I got this thing. I got this game. I want to show you. I created this thing. So that's what eventually led into Cult of the Deep, which I'm sure we'll get into. And so we've always wanted to be in the space. Like, who doesn't want to be in the space? I'm sure it's one of the reasons why you're doing the podcast,
it is,
right?
Yeah.
Like, it's such a wonderful hobby, and there's just so many wonderful people, and you get to meet people. And that's why I play games. I get to meet people. I get to hang out with people. You go to a convention. Yeah, I get to see all the shiny new things, and, I'll suffer from the FOMO that everyone else suffers from. But the parts you remember are the people you're hanging out with, the things that you're doing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And so Sam was like, hey, I got this thing. And so we played it at Gen Con. It was fun. And so I went back. I'm married, so I was talking to my wife, and I was like, man, there's something there. And so I called Sam up, like, probably 2 weeks after Gen Con. I was like, hey, man, we need to do this. He's like, what are you talking about? I was like, we need to produce and do this thing. Let's do this thing. And so that's where BA Games started. And that was back in, that long ago. It takes a while to do these things.
It does.
Yeah,
weird.
It does.
Yeah. Our start was pretty similar. We had talked about it for a while. Like, I was getting out of the Navy and stuff. We went PAX 2019. Yeah. And just that was our first big convention that we'd ever been to. And just walking out of that, it's like you said, who doesn't want to be part of this? Yeah. It's amazing to go there. Just, everything is so charged. Everything is so And it's all the people that are there to do the same thing that you love. It's all about sharing whatever your love for gaming is, whatever, background you come from or whatever you play. You can just sit there and play it together, play something new, find somebody new. Like I always said, some of the best friends I ever have, I met sitting around a table.
Oh, yeah. And then, that's where it originally started with me and Sam. Dave was there because he actually lives in the same location as Sam.
Cool.
And I'll let Dave take over from there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So even though I wasn't like officially part of a lot of the founding in BA Games, I was actually living with Sam at this point in time.
Right.
I had moved out, and this is before I got married, and so I was living with Sam while I was like looking for a job for a bit, and so I got to kind of be, over his shoulder, kind of poking at him, be like, "Hey, what's that? What you doing?" Stuff like that, and consequently too, I traveled with him to a lot of the early, like to the small conventions that were local to us, and helped a lot with the play testing, and even like cutting out cards and doing stuff.
Right. Kind of the manual labor
yeah.
side of it.
Yeah, pretty much.
That sounds like a younger brother role.
And whenever Sam and Ed would be like, they couldn't agree on like, I want it designed this way, or I think this way is better, or they'd be like, you know what? Ask Dave. What does he think? And I'm just sitting here. I'm like, I'm not really that involved, but I have opinions. So.
Right, which is perfect. Like I don't really know enough to know which way it should go, but here's what I think. I think that's perfect.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, let's get into the game. Let's talk about it. So, Cult of the Deep, we did look up the stats on it. Just finished up as a Kickstarter. You guys raised like $43,000 out of, you were originally asking for 15.
That's correct.
So, blew that away.
Yeah.
Awesome. 825 backers. That's a good showing.
Yeah, it's a great showing for a first Kickstarter.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, where did you, because like I said, we watched some of we watched the unboxing video that Sam does.
Yeah.
And then we watched a couple of play videos. It seems like, I don't want to say complicated. There's a lot to the game though. Like it feels like it's crunchy. Like they're like in a good way. Like there's a lot to digest in there.
So I will say this: you played Magic, right?
Yep.
So if you, we have found that Magic players don't have a hard time with Cult of the Deep, right? So it's a social deduction game. You can compare it to several other games.
Okay. Yeah.
That are social deduction, where like oh, who's the werewolf, or who's the sheriff, and who's the outlaw, and all of them. So there's some similarities there, right? Because everyone's a member of a cult. There's a high priest. Everyone knows who there is, but there are people who are faithful.
Right.
They're trying to protect that high priest. There's the Kabbalists who are trying to kill the high priest and like die high priest because we want to be in charge. And then there's the heretic character, kind of fills out the rest of that tension between all the different teams and wants to kill everyone, but the high priest has to die last.
Got it. Yeah.
And so that's kind of like. But as far as getting the Kickstarter, and what was the question again? I'm sorry, I totally lost track.
Like just it seemed like I said there was a lot in the game. Like
Dave's laughing at me.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's okay. It's okay.
yeah. Like so, let's start with just talking about where did you guys get the inspiration for? Like, I mean, that's a themed game, which we've talked about. Like, you get a lot of like the games that don't really have a theme, like more of the Euro game style, and this one definitely has a very solid theme to it. So, where did that idea come from?
So, Sam was visiting from Nebraska down to where I'm at in New Mexico. And we were chatting there and talking, and we decided that we were moving forward. Were you around then, Dave? Were you visiting too? I don't remember. To be honest.
I don't remember. It's been so long.
It's been a while.
Right. It feels like a lot's happened since then.
A lot has happened since then. Anyway,
Yeah.
long story short, we're sitting there like, hey, we got this game. What kind of theme, right? So when we were originally founding BA Games, we're like, what kind of games do we want to produce, right? Do we want to just slap on themes, or do we want to do something like, we want games that are thematic, we want games that have player interaction, and because that's why I play games, is to interact with people. And so and we want to have a quality game, right? So you're getting a good bang for your buck. And so with that in mind, we're like, what really fits this theme? A cult fits that theme, right? You got someone in charge, and you're trying to figure out like what is more culty than stabbing people in the back, and no one knows who you really belong to, right? You kind of have that kind of political scheming and false movement and stuff like that. It fits wonderfully in a cult. It's great theme.
I could totally, and I'm a fan of cults. I don't know why, because one of these days I'll start my own.
They're fascinating,
right? Just to watch some of the stuff happen. So I like the theme. I was big on that. Your artwork and stuff. Who did the work for you there?
So we had Liam Peters.
Okay.
He's originally out of Australia. Sam found him. So my brother Sam's big into the art side of the house, and all of the artwork and art design and the art direction was all done by Sam.
Got it.
And Sam has an eye for art. It's one of the reasons why he likes to paint miniatures and things like that. That's like his shtick. Like he's a stickler for some of these detail things. And so that's where the artwork's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Liam Peters is a phenomenal artist. He was phenomenal to work with. He's over in Texas. But all the artwork was done by him, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah, it is. We were flipping through some of the videos and stuff, and it looks great. The rule book that he was showing looked great. Like, everything looks solid. Even the box when he was taking it apart, because Sam was showing us too. He's like, "This is a thick box," just so you guys know when he's doing the unboxing on it. It looks so good from what we've seen so far.
Yeah, it's the quality coming out. Sam's a stickler for the details and quality, and it really shows with a lot of that kind of thing.
Yeah, you need that.
Yeah, that makes a big difference. We've done a few game reviews, and that's one of the big things. You can tell when a game the designer has taken the time with the components, and it's not just, throw just whatever we can get into the box. It's like literally thought out and stuff like that. And that's one of the things we really appreciate about a lot of games that we play is when they are done like that. When you can feel like, man, this is good card quality. Like, these tokens are nice. Like, that whole thing really just creates a complete package for us.
Because we haven't done anything. We've backed a lot of Kickstarters. So how was it from that side of the house deciding to go with? And was it something? Was Kickstarter? It was still the kind of only show in town for crowdsourcing at the time.
Pretty much. So Kickstarter is an interesting platform. I know there's a big online debate about like, oh, it's a pre-order platform. Oh no, it's a bootstrap platform. And the reality is, it's kind of a little bit of both.
Right. Yeah.
Kickstarter has evolved like anything else as a service as it has expanded and things like that. I find it fascinating what GameFound is doing and some of their things. Kickstarter still has a larger user base, but Kickstarter, I think a lot of Sam would be able to give you all the numbers, but he's actually a marketing guy. One of the reasons why we did so well. But a lot of their money comes from the board game hobby side of the house. That's where they make a lot of Kickstarter. Kickstarter makes a lot of their money. So that being said, it was definitely different, right? Because you back a Kickstarter, you're like, oh, what's the update? Yeah, next month. Oh, what's that? And then on the other side of the house, in order to have a successful Kickstarter, it's not. I think something like 50 or 60% of Kickstarter the first time trying to fund something fail.
Yeah,
the
I've
first
seen
Kickstarter,
that.
everyone knows. I think that's the number I've heard, and the amount of prep work that involves is a ton, right? So the Kickstarter ended March of 2021, and so prior to that, like we're talking, we went to Gen Con at 2018 or 2019, and all of that year and a half, 2 years prior, it's all work.
Yeah.
It's all work of like, okay, not only creating the game, but like, how do I get someone to even know who I am, right? If you just show up to Kickstarter, have a bunch of pretty pictures, and you spend tons of money, great, but no one knows to go there and look for it. You will get some, but unless you happen to catch the right eye at the right time with the right thing, success is all preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think Kickstarter's gotten to the point too. There are so many games on there that, like you said, 50-60% of them will fail. But getting somebody to see yours and getting to pick it up, what did you guys do to make sure that it was more successful?
I think that's where Dave came in a lot of times with some of the conventions and some of that.
Yeah. So we, especially when we went to a lot of small conventions.
Okay, yeah.
And our big thing was two goals. One, just make connections with just people, like start to build a community around our game and get people aware of it. They may not necessarily remember us when they walk out the door, but when they see our Kickstarter page or they see us on Facebook or they see something else, they may be like, oh, I remember those guys. So we wanted to do that. And the other half of that was also doing a lot of playtesting and having people like tell us like, oh, this game is good, and kind of getting a general feel. Since this is our first game, we weren't really sure how it was going to really be received. It was kind of scary, like sometimes going to conventions and like pulling it out and some people like not being super hyped about it and some people liking it but being like, oh, you should like change all this and stuff. But a big part of what I think our Kickstarter success was building up community a little bit before we actually launched the Kickstarter, so that if people saw it on Kickstarter and they get reminded of it, they remember us and they say, oh, I've played this before or I've seen this before.
Like they've already got you already put it in their minds, and then when they get to see it, that keys them in on it. your playtests, were you doing them at conventions? Did you do playtests before when you were developing it?
We did playtests constantly. It's the one thing with Sam is very particular with a lot of details and things like that. And being that like we didn't, this is our first game, it was like make small minute change and then playtest the crap out of it.
Right.
And now we've kind of changed our how development goes because we don't want to wait 5 years between every game.
That's fair.
But we did a little bit of playtesting because it's nice to have people who are going to conventions who are looking for things to buy or just things to play, and they're looking for new experiences. And so it's a really good way to kind of do that double of, hey, we exist, and what do you think of our game?
So how do you guys filter through like your playtest feedback? Because I mean, you mentioned how you have some people that come in and give you a list of a bunch of things that they want to change. So kind of what was the process for kind of figuring out what was a good idea to change, or what was something that like we really want to hold on to this thing?
Yeah, for sure. Because there's you do get a lot of feedback, and a lot of it is not necessarily awesome, and it also changes from person to person. Really, the thing at least that we were looking for or that we noticed is trends, right? So if I play with one group and they say like, oh, this mechanic needs to be changed, and then I play with another group at a different convention or later in the day and they say the same thing, and we continuously get that, because the things we were looking for were like, how intuitive is the game? How readable is the game? Does the theme feel good? Do people understand the concept? Because it can be difficult to maybe like translate to people who've never seen the game before, like all the work you've done and everything that you've put into it and what the vision of the game is. As far as filtering feedback, a lot of it was looking for trends and looking for what a lot of people said the same thing and going from there. And the other thing is that people who play similar games, right? So if someone says, well, I really like Secret Hitler, I really like Werewolf, I really like, all those different variations, they may be kind of the target for Cult of the Deep, right? And so they may have feedback that's different than someone who plays like mainly Euros, right? So like we did go to a convention and there was a bunch of guys who were into super heavy Euros, and they were all prototyping and playtesting their super heavy Euros, and they kind of thrashed Cult of the Deep a little bit because it wasn't a heavy Euro. And you have to realize too is that they were expecting something that was super heavy, super crunchy, takes 3 hours to play kind of thing. And that's not what Cult of the Deep was. And so their feedback, it wasn't that it was completely invalid, but it was coming from a different perspective, and they're probably not the target for the product itself.
Right. It sounds like they had a little bit of kind of a bias already coming into it. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So now, I mean, it's finished. You guys are filling orders and stuff. How is the play now? Like, you said it's a social engineering game. We talked a little bit about it at the beginning. But really getting into the nuts and bolts of the game, like, if you're trying to sell this to somebody, like your target audience, you're probably looking for seasoned gamers to play this.
So we're looking for seasoned gamers. We have found just some general trends at different conventions and things like that. We have found people who play social deduction games enjoy the game. We have found people who have played Magic the Gathering or card games have an easier time understanding what's going on and things like that, because outside of the basic rules, a lot of it is card driven with like, hey, here's my player's special power, and then I have this once per game special ability that allows me to alter gameplay instantly once per game, which is super powerful, but that's much more aligned with a lot of your TCGs, Magic the Gathering, things like that.
Right,
so if you've played those and are used to those interactions, you have an easier time. We've also found that TTRPGers tend to enjoy the game because of the role-playing element there. Yeah. You enter the magic circle you enter into. When you enter that into a board game, a lot of when you get into social engineering or social deduction games, there is an element at play there that you're not just like, this is the only move, the optimal move, which is very much with heavier Euros, which I enjoy.
Right.
Because that's the puzzle aspect. This game has a puzzle aspect, but there's that social engineering aspect. And we found, so that's more of the target audience. And it's a little bit of a smaller niche inside the board game community, I would say, we have found. But anyone who enjoys just rolling some dice, because, you pick up your dice, you roll them 3 times Yahtzee style.
Right.
You put them, you either hurt other people, you heal other people, heal yourself, or there's rituals in the middle which allow you to eventually, which when you dedicate dice there, they do something. usually to benefit you or your team, or hurt someone in someone else's team. And then when you complete the ritual, you usually get to keep it, and it gives you kind of it adds on to your character's abilities and powers and things like that. So the nice thing about that, and one reason why we kind of shifted, instead of like the whole he said, she said, or, you're the bad guy. No, you're the bad guy. Like, what's the proof? Because I pointed at you. It's like, you actually have to do things. And that actually indicates who you may or may not be. And there's a couple of variants and things like that. There's like a necromantic high priest. So like, yeah, the high priest is dead, but that's no longer the end condition because he's a necromancer. He comes back to life after so many rounds. So you have to kill him and all the faithful. So it's no longer all that bad to hit the high priest, right? The faithful can actually just like, you know what, I'm just going to kill the high priest. Who cares?
I like that. I like that having options. Josh is definitely our brains here when it comes to board games and stuff. Me, I'm like stumbling through them and finding the ones that I like.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've been a TT RPGer for longer than I care to admit. D&D 2nd edition. So,
yeah, if you ever wanted to play, man, we have a Discord channel. You can hit us up. You can join it. We have a game night every Thursday and Friday. Friday's more the West Coast time. I'm trying to start a game that. We have
Gotcha.
Thursday with more of the East Coast. If you're painting your miniatures, Sam's a really good painter. We just started Miniature Mondays where he hangs out and we just paint miniatures and stuff like that. There is a tabletop simulator. If you have tabletop simulator, you can download that.
yes.
We actually released a mod on Roll20. It's an interesting application because Roll20 is actually not meant for board games.
No, I was going to say, we use it. We have a weekly game on Roll20.
Yeah, so you can actually find Cult of Deep on Roll20. They don't let you give things away for free, so I think it's $5.49 or whatever it is, what the low price is, and you can actually play on there. It's not quite as intuitive as far as tabletop sim, which is just basically a giant physics engine, but you can play it on Roll20, and it's doable. You roll dice, and it's a 6-sided random token you hit, and things like that. It's definitively playable on Roll20.
Yeah. We've both of us have Roll20. We've definitely tried out some games. I know you've been playing a couple of them here lately that have been
on Tabletop Simulator. I'm a huge fan of that because I use it to definitely try newer games because a lot of people now are putting mods on there of ones that like are going on Kickstarter, things like that, which I think is awesome. It's such a way to get the game in people's hands to actually let them give it a shot, which I'm always for.
Yeah. What so the Kickstarter finished up, and I know then you because we backed Kickstarter. So how close are you guys to filling? You just said you started filling Australia now.
Yeah, so we everything in Australia has been shipped.
Okay.
And some people already have it. There's a couple people who say, "Hey, look, I got it." I'm like, "Yeah, it's freaking awesome." I'm kind of jealous. I wish I had it in my hands. Obviously, the shipping conditions over in the U.S. are not optimal.
No.
But it is off the ship and it has made it to port. So then, how long it takes to get out of port because the ports are so backed up, they just unload the ships and the ships take off, but that doesn't mean your container's been unloaded. It doesn't mean your ship's been put on a truck or a train to go to the fulfillment center.
Right.
So that's the next step that we're waiting for. So hopefully soon, right?
Right. Yeah,
like,
definitely.
I would love to get the email next week, like, yeah, it's coming tomorrow. And then, the facility center's got to, do its thing and pack and do all this stuff. I'd love to have that email, but we're just waiting on that confirmation. And then our other fulfillment is out in Europe.
Mm-hmm.
That sadly, because we have 3 different shipments, the Australian shipment made it out, the U.S. shipment made it out, Chinese New Year hit.
And it shuts down.
Well, we were told it was loaded, and there must have been a miscommunication between the manufacturer, the forwarder, and the fulfillment company. So something happened, some wires got crossed, and it didn't happen before Chinese New Year. So once that happened, they scheduled it for right after they got back. Chinese New Year happened, and then COVID has picked up over in China, apparently with some lockdowns in factories and things like that. So I think we literally just pushed it. This will come out later, but I think we pushed out a update yesterday on Kickstarter. We're just waiting for to put it on a boat.
Yeah,
that's all we want.
That's so easy.
And
it's so close.
It's so close, and this one of the things that goes back to you're asking with Kickstarter. On the other side, you're like, why can't they get their act freaking together? Well, I have it's not as simple as me and the fulfillment company.
Sure, yeah.
Right. It's me, the fulfillment company, the manufacturer, the forwarder. You want to talk about language barriers? We're and we're working with a fulfillment company over in Europe. Yeah, they speak English, but it's probably not their first language.
Right.
So they understand me, I understand them, but they then have to talk to people over in China, and I'm sure that's not
ideal.
I'm sure they're not speaking English. They're speaking whatever that common language is. There's a lot of things going on there, but we're trying to get them as soon as possible. And then, oh yeah, by the way, the shipping costs are astronomically higher than they were, and everything else. It's all just been a giant cluster in some ways.
But this was the dream, right?
Hell yeah.
There you go. Totally with you. It says on your website, the first iteration of the dream was a game store.
Yes.
Is that still?
You know,
Dave said, yeah. Dave said, yeah, we're going with it.
We going with that, Dave?
Well, actually, so before even Cult of the Deep actually happened, Sam here in Nebraska, he graduated with his degree, and he actually started shopping around for locations to put a game store. And he was really sold on that for a while until it was just not financially feasible, and just it wasn't the right time.
Right.
I think Sam has always wanted a game store. I worked at a game store for several years, and I would love to manage a game store or be at a game store. It was one of my favorite jobs. It didn't pay very well, unfortunately, because that's just the nature of the beast. But I think, especially Sam and myself, would be super gung-ho about a game store, and that we'll see.
Yeah, we completely understand. I will tell you that we started this podcast, like I said, because after PAX, we want to get into something. This is what we loved. Let's do more in here. And our goal is to set up our own shop around here as well. So we completely understand a lot of that. It's we're going to hold off just a little bit. But in the meantime, you guys got this game out and a Kickstarter successful, and you're working with it. At what point even was the game successful in the Kickstarter and the funding before you guys were thinking about what's next?
So there's always got to be something next if you want to do this as business, right?
Yeah, right.
If you don't have something next, even some kind of inkling, you're going to run into big, long installs and things like that. So hopefully one day me and Sam can make this, and Dave, and I'd love to bring the other two brothers in, right, and just have a whole Brothers Awesome Games company and just have all the brothers work. It'd be great, right? And work out, have a gaming commune or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Something, right? A cult, you could call it. Maybe.
Yeah. Some might call it that.
So, but yeah, you got to have something new and something going on. So the plan is we're working on another game. We're hoping possibly to get through all that play testing and figure out what's going on. We're working on trying to get some graphic design and artwork and stuff going on. That's kind of Sam's wheelhouse. It's going to be a different game. It's going to be a dice game again.
Okay.
We like dice. I don't know if you saw the Herald of the Deep Pledge and those gorgeous dice by Dawnbreaker Dice.
Yeah.
I definitely saw it.
Oh my goodness, Dawnbreaker Dice makes gorgeous dice.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've heard of them. Anyways, long story short, I say that a lot too, by the way. Good times.
It's okay. Just keep talking too. It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter, right? We just keep talking forever. So we have a game. It's called Forges of Ravenshire. So it's kind of a worker placement game, but we're using dice, right?
Okay.
So you'll be rolling dice. Right now, you're kind of a blacksmith. You're trying to become the best blacksmith and things like that. So you'd be rolling some dice, generating some resources, whether it's wood or coal or iron. You'll be then transforming the wood into charcoal, which you can use as coal, and the coal and the iron can be mixed to make into steel. There's a little bit of alchemy component on the side where you can gather mushrooms and claws that allow you to change dice faces or move dice. You're gathering contracts to fulfill the contracts, and then that's kind of thing. That's pretty much going on there.
Nice. Good. So we already got stuff in the works.
Oh yeah, we got that. We got a couple other games Dave's working on. He's working on one of his mini game designs, and he's trying to get that. That's going to be hopefully the next one. A little bit of a different theme, a little bit lighter. We're trying to broaden the library, right? One of the things we talked about is again, you got to have a plan, right? So the plan is to have the first game, and then we don't want to be the game company that's like, we make this type of game and only this type of game, and that's your gaming library.
Yeah.
It limits yourself, right? How do you have longevity without some kind of gaming library that caters, right? No one goes you go to a game night and you're like, oh, we're going to play this game tonight. But the next night, maybe a different game or maybe that same game. But then you're like, okay, we're waiting for so-and-so to show up. They're running a half hour late. Well, let's pick up the light game.
Yeah, right.
Or like, hey, they just left. Now we're down to 3 players instead of 4 players. Let's pick up the heavier game because I got hours.
Right.
So you want to have that gaming library. You want to be able to have the game code where you're like, hey, if you're looking for this is what we got. You're looking for that, this is what we got.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's something that we've talked about as we're kind of tripping through this, and I am. Josh kind of knows where he's going. I mean, you got those days where you let's break it out that big heavy box, the Ankh, the Bloodborne, the big with all the minis and stuff. And then there's sometimes where we're just sitting around the table. My girlfriend came over and her one of her best friends, they were having their anniversary, so they stopped in and we just had a game night, and we were playing dungeon madness, something quick and fast before we go out to dinner. And yeah, for a company that I can see it for a company that to really be around for a while, cover all the bases. Like that makes so much sense. Like I'm totally with you.
Yeah. So with your next project, are you guys planning on going with Kickstarter again, or?
Yeah. One of the problems with well, not the problem, but I'm a full-time employee for Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
My brother's a full-time employee for a business that has nothing to do with games. Dave is a full-time employee, nothing to do with games, right? In order to make that work, right? Like I'd love to work full-time and do some of the stuff, but the money's involved is real.
Yeah.
And one of the things we did with the last Kickstarter, we said what we wanted. We funded. Obviously, what the pricing was going to be, we didn't want to change, right? We were like, we don't want to come back a year and a half later like, hey, man, shipping's going to be more because, crap happens. That's not how you establish a brand or a company. You meet your obligations.
Sure.
Probably one of the problems, not say the problems, but what kind of company are you going to be, right? You can come back and ask for more money. You can be like, this is what we're doing. We're going to fulfill this. And so Kickstarter, it's also a way to advertise to a certain extent. Not really, but it is because you have to advertise for your Kickstarter, and then they get their portion, and everyone gets a little piece of the pie until you finally get your piece of the pie at the very end. It's kind of sad, but it's a way to make sure your game's out there, and it's a way to make sure to get your game in front of a lot more people and things like that. Because the people who want something new, or the people who want to support someone they know, which is important. Kickstarter is one of those platforms you can do that. So right now, Kickstarter is that platform. Whether it's in the future, we'd like to produce our own games once we actually have, a profit, which hasn't happened yet. You can actually fund some of those smaller games or do a bigger project and do that kind of thing. And then you still do Kickstarters because that's a very important part of the board gaming industry. I don't think it's going to go away. Crowdfunding is here to stay to a certain extent.
Yeah, I believe that.
I think even Stonemeyer still uses crowdfunding.
Yes.
Though they don't have to, it's a good idea too. There's always something going on there. We don't want it to be our sole model, but right now, currently, that's the best model.
Right. Getting started and getting into it until you get established. Yeah.
I mean, you look at CMON though; they've made their company off of Kickstarter. Like all their miniature games and stuff, all of them come on there. I mean, the last one, Marvel Zombicide, which of course drew us in. I mean. The amount of pledges and things that they get off of there. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. But no, I think that would be awesome to see you guys be able to produce and actually publish your own games and stuff like that. That is a definite end goal.
You got anything to say about that, Dave?
No, I mean, you kind of nailed it. I mean, there's not really much else to add.
Perfect backup, Dave. That's exactly.
Yep. I mean, I'm still breathing.
Yeah, right? I love it. So for people that missed the Kickstarter, have you guys got to the point where you're doing pre-orders and stuff on the site? I saw.
Yeah. So if you go to the website, BA Games Co. So Bravo Alpha Games Co.com.
And I'll be sure to put it in the show notes as well.
Thank you. Where you're there, you click on the stuff. So right now we're still pre-ordering from Backer Kit. Yep. So if you go to the Kickstarter and look up Cult of the Deep, or go to our website, and you hit the pre-order button, it goes to the Backer Kit website, and you can still pre-order the game. I think the game's still $40 once it hits retail. We actually got into distribution, so if you have a local game store, they can order it from wherever they get their games. Their retailer can order it from the distributors. It's going to go up to $45.
Okay.
I wish we could do it for cheaper, that kind of thing, but it is what it is with current things with inflation and everything else, everything going up. But you can avail it from there. I don't know if you saw the web store also has a lot of the artwork. If you enjoy the artwork for the game, there's canvases and art prints. We're hoping to possibly put up some shirts and things like that. If you have a piece of art that's gorgeous, why not put it on your wall? And some of that art is absolutely gorgeous. Yeah. So those are the two places to go. The big place is the website at BAGamesCo.com. Or you just look at the Kickstarter and see all the updates and all the things, and it'll take you straight to Bracket Kit where you can pre-order it and that kind of thing.
Nice. So if anybody's looking at this, like I said, we've looked at some videos. We've definitely looked at this. The game just looks fun, like when they're unboxing it out and stuff, and just the components look great, and the gameplay just sounds amazing. Like I love that the social deduction side of it. With it kind of reminds me of kind of like a little bit of Coup.
Okay.
where you kind of got to figure out who they are based on what they're doing. And that was a lot of fun with the dice rolling and stuff. So we're looking forward to it. We're gonna definitely check it out as soon as we can get our hands on it. Does it help you guys? Is it better for the game stores to stock it? I mean, like, how does that work? Or is it better to go straight through the company?
So, half a dozen, one half dozen the other.
Is it,
so,
yeah.
if you think about your experience in the hobby, right? You don't experience that at your house.
No.
Not until you have an established gaming group or you happen to get online and things like that. I'm a big fan of supporting local retailers. At the same time, I'm also a big fan of supporting companies and small businesses.
Yep.
And I'm a small business, but
Definitely.
a local retailer is also a small business. So I think it's up to the consumer with how they feel about something and things like that. I don't think they should go out of their way just to only buy it from me. Do I make a little more money if you buy it directly from the store? Yes, of course I do, right? Because I've just cut out a couple of middlemen, the distributor and the retailer.
Yep.
But I don't want to undercut the retail stores. The retail stores are an important part of the business model for the overall industry, I think. Because if you don't have the hobby stores, you don't have a place to play. You don't have a place to hang out. You don't have a place to meet new people. You don't have a place where your backers, or even if they buy the game from you or aren't a Kickstarter backer, I would say someone who buys your game as a backer, to be an ambassador to other players.
Right.
Because really that's what Kickstarter does, but on an online level. But you want that to be sustainable. You need that across. So you need the local game stores. You want that support. You want to be able to support the retailers with whatever you can do, so that they can either back your Kickstarter at the retail level, and then you're doing that, or they can buy it from the distributor, because that's what works out better for them. There's a couple different business models on the retail side depending on what they're trying to accomplish. And so I don't advocate for one or the other. I leave it to the consumer to, people have limited money, limited budget, so they have to decide where they're going and what's that thing. And I think they should do what they need to do as far as what makes them feel right, and that connection with the company and with the retail store, with the hobby stores.
Right, yeah. And we have, like I said, you found our business card because we actually took a Saturday, and I was like, there's a lot of game stores that we have missed because their name is Comics and Games.
Yep.
And we took a Saturday, got up at like early, and drove Hampton, drove Portsmouth in the area, stopping. And when they had a place like to lay out cards, we just like, we'll put some more cards here. So that's how you ended up finding us, like you said. But
it was over at Atomic Emporium.
Yeah, which it's so, like, it used to be a warehouse. We talked about, like, it feels like it used to be a warehouse, and they have just so much stuff.
Oh, they have a ton of stuff. It's
oh my
awesome.
God. Yeah, right? I was over there looking at like second edition modules that you could see, like, they got them, and there was some like water damage and stuff, like these have been used, but it was just like, I remember. It was great. I love that one. So yeah, so when you contacted us, I was like, oh, hey, it worked. That actually, some people are picking those up, so that's great. But yeah, we've talked about all the time with these, with your local game store. Can you get most of the games cheaper on Amazon? Sure. Yeah, you can. Are you going to get that community? Not even close. And keeping their doors open, I think, is a huge part of just this whole thing all the way around. I don't care if you're a card flipper, if you're playing board games, whatever you're doing, like, you get a community build when you are supporting those local game stores, and you're in there on the weekends, and you're doing their Friday night magics, and you're running their board game nights and stuff. So totally understand. We're with you. A $40, $45 price point looking at this game, I feel, with what we've done lately, is, I mean, you're right there. You're good. You're probably even a little under a lot of game for what it looks like you're getting out of this box. That's just me looking at it. I'm not an expert, but we've done a couple of reviews, and I know when I can look at a game and be like, I think I'm going to like that or not. But I definitely think it looks good, especially for that price. I was actually, in my head, I was going, it's probably like a $60 game.
Do what we can for the people.
Right? It's all about the little guy. Awesome. Anything else is there anything else that we missed that you want to talk about, whether it's the company, whether it's the game, whether it's, social media? I definitely want to make sure if there's somebody, or is there a place where they can reach out to you guys? I know the website's out there, bagamescode.com.
Yeah, trust me, I'd love to have BA Games, but because it's games and there's nothing else after it,
I can imagine. Yeah.
Oh, why did I pick that name?
All right. So what's important here, and our listeners should know this, is don't listen to shit that I say. Check the show notes. We'll put the link in there for you guys. Yeah. Is there anything else? Any parting shots or anything that you guys want to get out that you want to talk about before we get out of here with this?
Yeah, actually, so with the social media, so we have our website, we have our Discord that you can come and play games with, or you can just talk about games or just chill out or whatever. We have our Minis Mondays. We also have a Facebook page called You just put in Cult of the Deep in Facebook.
Okay.
And we will post things like updates, and we'll occasionally do like community polls and just try to have discussion. And we do like weekly blog post articles on our website as well that will also go through the Facebook page there. So you can go there if you're interested in kind of following what's going on, and that'll probably also get changed to other games when those eventually happen.
Okay.
So if you want to keep us in your eye, so just go to the Facebook page and Discord if you'd like, or whatever.
Sounds great. Yeah. So Facebook, Discord, is there an Instagram or anything?
There's an Instagram and a Twitter. Trying to keep up on social media, man.
You guys do have a social media manager.
I wish, kind of. She's on the webpage. She's my wife, and I love her with all of my heart. But I got 5 kids.
Oh my god, that's why we saw that. We saw that she was a social media manager. There was 5 kids. And we were like, how do you find time for that? I mean, duct tape every now and then just to keep them down.
I need other brothers.
I
need them. You know. So we do some Instagram. Okay. We do some Twitter and things like that. We're trying to. It's probably one of our weaker points, right? We're great on Facebook.
Yeah.
Right, and as Dave mentioned, there's a Facebook page. There's also the Facebook group called Cult of the Deep. We post pretty regular on that. The Cult of the Deep, we're really trying to get that group going, because the plan is with the Forges of Ravenshire, right? We're going to start probably pushing more updates there in our Discord when that starts hitting, right? When we start getting artwork in, we start teasing some of the things, titles, or asking for opinions and stuff like that. That's probably where we're going to start posting some of that. So, you know, if you're interested in like having your opinion heard, or you guys have TTS, right? Yep. Looking for the play test Forges of Ravenshire and things like that. That's going to start happening come this summer and things like that. If you just want to directly contact us, Discord or Facebook is probably the best way. You can also email us, right? It's super simple. Like, I'm Ed, so I'm Ed at BAGamesco.com. Dave is Dave at BAGamesco.com, and Sam is Sam at BAGamesco.com.
Pretty simple. I get it.
Right? It's great having brothers with single syllable names.
Right.
Yep.
We see it. It's a trend in the gaming industry now.
Yeah. I know. Josh and Jim.
Yeah. Right. Awesome. Hey, guys, I want to say thank you for reaching out to us. Like I said, this is something that we love, and we love talking to people that share that. And, I mean, congratulations on, I think a big first step for what you guys are looking for. If this is the dream, man, chase it down. We do have a couple. Dave, I'll tell you, we have some lanyards with some of our information and stuff on it, our Dapper Meeple lanyards that we do. So when he comes home, make sure he gives you one of them.
Sure thing.
Just something for you to take from us, just kind of to say thank you. We did see that your wife was part of the company too, so we didn't know if she would like a lanyard, but we actually had a necklace that we make.
Oh, wow.
So you can take that home to her.
Thank you. That's kind of awesome.
Look what I found in Norfolk, hon.
Oh, she'll be excited, actually. She loves things like this.
Perfect. I'm glad to hear it. Thank you guys for coming on. We will definitely put your information out there that people can find your links from our social media. Yeah. And we will be keeping an eye out and looking forward to seeing what comes out next.
Oh, hell yeah, man. Keep in touch.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll be at some of these conventions and stuff. You should stop by.
Absolutely. We'll definitely get to it. Hey, Ed, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely.
Working through some of the technical difficulties at the beginning, but I think it worked out well. It was good hearing from you. If you guys are interested, which at this point you should be, Cult of the Deep, go take a look at it. It looks like a great game. And if you guys get yours before we get ours, let us know what you think. All right, so now on the Dapper Meeple, know your character. So we had Ed and Dave on, and we were able to talk to them about their company, BA Games. So we were also able to talk to them about their game, Cult of the Deep. So we brought them back in, and we're going to do our Know Your Character segment. We also have the pleasure of bringing the third brother on, Sam. So feel free. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, so I'm Sam Stockton. I'm the third brother of 5. And... yeah, the co-founder with Ed, the Duke of Boslandia.
Nice. All right, so what we're going to do is we've got the 3 of you on, and we're going to run through the Know Your Character segment, and we'll just take all 3 of you as we go. You guys can, fight for brother order. But let's start with character name. Who wants to go first?
Well, let Sam go first.
Okay. So I kind of have two characters, but I'll just choose the one. I have too many characters to choose from. But the main one that I probably enjoyed playing the most was it was a character by the name of Thorum Oakbeard.
Dwarf?
He is actually human who was raised by dwarves.
Even better. I like it. Ed.
So one of my favorite characters, I'm going to go back to like early days of my RPG-ness, and the character's name was Ed, oddly enough. So we're talking, I was in high school. We're talking like, I'm 16, 17. You're talking like 96, 97.
Right.
So his name was Ed. He was a human character, but as far as system going, he was in Rifts. So the character class and some other things later, but that's where that stems from.
Awesome. Dave, what do you got?
Yes. I don't have as many characters that I've played because I have the eternal DM syndrome.
Been there.
But when I do manage to play, I had a character, Marcus Gaius.
Sounds like a total Chad.
Dude, don't judge him.
That's awesome. All right, so let's kick off with Thorin. What system was he played in?
So Thorin was played in Pathfinder First Edition when he came out.
And was there a particular setting? I haven't done a lot of Pathfinder.
So he was it's the Pathfinder setting. Oh
right.
Gosh, what's it called? Valeria? No. I can't remember the setting is like the world it's in.
Okay.
But we were running the campaign it was one of the modules that came out. We had a DM. He liked to use the Pathfinder module systems. Mm-hmm. And so it was the oh gosh. It was the one with the dark comet. I can't remember what it is. You deal with the drow and stuff. It was a pretty good one.
Oh, I've read that. I know which one you're talking about.
It was one of the earlier ones because they had like Crimson Throne and a few, but it was one of those early ones. It was actually really well written. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, we'll have to. If we look it up, we'll throw it in the show notes later.
I'm gonna look up while you guys are talking about stuff.
Well, we're gonna run down a few things. Race, you said, was human, and lineage. How did he end up being raised by dwarves?
So standard D&D character, orphaned at a young age. He wasn't entirely sure how or why, but he grew up in a village, and he was orphaned at a young age, and so he was found by these rangers who were dwarves. That's why the Oakbeards, and so that's why he grew up in a village of dwarves. Not under the mountains, but out in the forest.
Right, like hill dwarves.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
And so that's kind of how he was raised and found, and he kind of just, he lived a somewhat normal life, just so that he could be a lot taller than everybody else. And bullied for his gangly looks.
How'd you get so tall and skinny, boy?
So wait,
they fed him a lot, but it didn't work out.
How did you write the script for Elf before that came out? Or at least the opening parts of it.
I think they owe me. I'm still in works with them paying my percentage.
What was his class, job?
So he was a ranger.
So he was a ranger too.
He was a ranger. He was the ranger with the animal companion, a giant mastiff named Bruno.
Perfect. That almost fits.
This is before Disney now owes me money for we don't talk about Bruno. So.
I feel like you should really be cashing in at this point. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I'm just a creator at heart. I just create all the wonderful movies you know and love. Just no recognition whatsoever.
Right. So that's what happens. You pass on that stuff. We were talking about it before, how they're making millions for stuff that we used to get beat up for. Like, somebody owes me a check.
Seriously.
All right, Ed. So Ed, tell us about Ed. What system? He said he was from the Rift system.
Yeah, right. So he's from the Rift system, and so if you track the Rift system, it's very much post-apocalyptic Rift system. They're all basically humans for the most part, especially in the early days of the original books. So as far as like class and stuff, he was what they call like a crazy. So they're one of those people who have like all these augments and things like that, and they kind of go a little bit crazy. And what better name for a crazy person than Ed, right? Like whether it's from Disney and lions named, hyenas named Ed, like crazy people are just named Ed. I don't know. It's odd. So I thought it was appropriate.
Right.
So he's human class. He had some oddities. One of his oddities, and you got to think, this is like 96, 97. I think Sam was DMing. He loved Twinkies. Absolutely loved Twinkies. So like, once again, creators at heart, Zombieland 2009, post upon Twinkies. Like, this was done in 96 in my Rifts campaign. Like, I was Twinkie obsessed. So yeah,
That's fantastic. Class. So was Crazy his class?
Crazy is a class, so they're kind of abnormal. They're kind of crazy. They're basically augmented the crap out of for all kinds of stuff. It's not quite like a juicer, which is like dumping all kinds of chemicals into a body. It's much more
like implants,
mental augmentation,
implants that does things.
Nice. Okay, gotcha. Dave, give me Marcus Gaius.
So he was my go-to character when I worked at a game shop for a while, and so if I ever had to hop into a campaign or make a loner character, Marcus was always to the plate. So he was played in 5e. Specifically, he was played one person liked him a lot, and so they kept playing him through. They had forgotten their character sheet that week, and they didn't really want to make a new one, and so I just handed them mine. So he went through. He unfortunately died in the Tomb of Annihilation.
That happens,
like many characters do. Yep. He's played in just a couple other just random, one-offs and things like that. And then he's been played in Savage Worlds as well.
Ooh, okay. What is he human?
Yes, he is. So he is a human. He is a standard. He's a fighter. He's particularly for 5e. He has the gladiator background.
Nice. Okay.
So he's an exotic weapon fighter with a emphasis on acrobatics and performance. And really his whole background is when I make 5e characters, I think D&D does a really good job of providing a lot of material for people to make characters. So I just kind of roll dice at the charts and I connect the dots is the way that I kind of like to see it. So I ended up having some kind of subplot where he had a secret admirer, and then on the random items table he had a letter. And so I made that a love letter from a secret admirer that he's then going off into the world to go find him or her. He doesn't know because he just only has their handwriting. And he's like, oh, this must be an elf because the handwriting is very nice, and things like that. So he's kind of this aloof fellow that just kind of gallivants and performs and uses exotic weapons, which I always think is kind of fun. So.
Oh, yeah. I'm always about flavoring of weapons. So let's talk about his stats since we've got him right here. I'm hoping there's there's a decent intelligence or wisdom associated with him, considering he's trying to match handwriting.
So he actually is really low in the wisdom and category. All of his stats are in strength, constitution, and dexterity. As
a fighter normally should be, yeah.
Yes. And so, because I kind of made him just as just very, I wanted to do some funky things with combat, especially with exotic weapons.
Right.
And he doesn't carry a sword. He carries a trident and he carries the net, the classic Rotarius gladiator, Roman gladiator kind of thing going on. And so, I always tried to make sure that when I was playing that his attacks weren't just oh, I'm just going to attack. I'm just going to stab. I'd be no, I'm going to set the net on the ground in a particular place so that at another turn I can pull it from underneath the feet of a different monster and tangle them. Or I chuck the spear even though it's my only weapon. Or, all kinds of just weird things because I just like the way it makes combat more interesting and makes the whole encounter a little bit more than, oh, I stabbed him, he died, and
right,
back and forth.
Right, exactly. Adding some flavor to it, so it's just not more than all right. I guess I'm rolling a d6 again.
Yep.
Nice. I like it. Stats, Sam for Thorum.
Thorum was actually fairly well rounded. He actually didn't have any dump stats. I think it's because how we created our characters. Because he would do the 4d6, drop the lowest.
The rolls, yeah.
So he liked heroic campaigns, and he even gave us an additional stat that we would then drop our lowest stat.
Oh, nice. So yeah,
we would do additional drop plus an additional drop of your lowest stat. So he was pretty well rounded, though I did put actually a higher emphasis on wisdom.
Yeah, for the ranger side of it.
Yeah, for the ranger side of it, but also come to find out that we've had a lot of run-ins with charm person or charming things in general, which turned out really poorly for the party. So that might have been a metagame thing, but try not to. But I'll just say he's a strong fortitude of will that kept him safe in his mind and body. So he was pretty well rounded, except his probably wisdom, strength, and dexterity were his highest stats.
Right. Awesome. And Ed.
So it's been a long time since I played Rift, but Rift is a little bit of a different system with how things function and work. But you could say he was a very physical character. So one of the things about Crazies is like, because of all these implants in their brain, they're very athletic. It alters their adrenaline and some of these other things going on. And so it's like this weird cyber-technic thing, kind of ish, but it drives them crazy. So as far as like his stats and stuff, it's very much like, hey, he's super awesome at fighting and some of these things, but he's a little mentally unstable.
Got it. Yeah, that makes sense.
I remember it like mental disorders, like different personalities could happen. They could have like all kinds of like crazy stuff.
And it was such full of nonsense, right? You're in high school, you're 16, you're just like, "Bah, I'm crazy," and you're just doing weird stuff all the time. You're like, what? But my poor Sam DM had to deal with that. But I was like, Twinkie! And then like over here, and then someone else like, oh, blah, blah, and then I don't know.
But then he'd be like really calm and like serene, and then like you just like, so you have like triggers and stuff.
I was gonna say you just snap. That's fantastic.
Yeah, there was written down triggers. One was like Twinkies. One was like something. There were just like weird little things that like if something like that every day like he'd just go nuts over, or would just be like, yes, I am, whatever. So yeah,
fantastic. Can you remember enough to remember a description? Like if somebody were to come across him in the streets somewhere.
He looked exactly like me in high school. Weird. I'm so original as an RPG player. It's amazing.
Except he had a bunch of like metal implants, right, Ed? Because like crazies have like weird like things sticking out of their heads.
So it's basically future me with metal on my head.
That's fantastic. Yeah. What about Thorum? If we bumped into him somewhere, what would he look like?
Thorum was, he had a scar over his left eye, had a good sized beard because he grew up with dwarves. That's what it is. He was a little not too heavy, but he definitely was fed a lot of food in order to try and make him bigger like a dwarf.
Right, trying to thicken him up.
But he was never thick enough for him. So.
And how about Marcus?
So Marcus was just kind of, I guess, a stereotypical Roman statuesque looking gladiator. Just. Normal human sized with brown hair, just a gladiator. So
it's my favorite part of role playing games is look, my character is just cut. I'm never getting there, but my character is, and it's fantastic.
In my head,
right? They also don't have to pay a mortgage and they're rich. I'm just going to throw that out there. So for Ed, what would you like? How would you classify the play style that you had with him? I know we talked about he had his triggers that would kind of set him off, but like how would you play him? What was his kind of character motivation other than Twinkies?
Other than Twinkies, his character motivation was you got to think. I'm there at the time. I think that was the motivation. That was his motivating factor. Like that was his thing. Now, that being said, I played him. I tend to play characters in general. I'm probably one of the most generic players when it comes to RPGs. I enjoy just being me, but eccentric. So this guy is very much eccentric. I enjoy the fact that an RPG, it's not really a contest, but a thing that you probably should do. But I like to give the DM a hard time. Not like in a mean way, but I like to do something outside the box.
Right.
Something that the DM probably hasn't thought that someone would actually go do. And so playing that crazy character allowed me to do so. Like, you're like, why would you go do X, Y, or Z, right? Or, you're like, you're in this big giant fight and then, something's happening and then, oh, look, squirrel, right? Like, and just completely get off track or, nothing. I don't want to get the story off track, but I want to tell the story and add some spice to the story. And so I try to figure out things that someone who in that situation that's a little bit eccentric adds to it.
Right. I like that. Josh has dealt with that, and I have a feling I'm going to deal with it in our upcoming campaign.
It's coming. It's coming.
There's always payback, apparently. I didn't know that. So, I mean, I don't know if you've ran a game for Sam yet, but Sam, make sure you take full advantage.
Just never let a DM be a player.
Every character we make is completely unhinged. It's crazy.
Everything that's been building up for years has been unleashed into this single character.
What about Thorum the Ranger? Like, what are we talking about for play style, for his character motivations? I mean, growing up with dwarves obviously had some like mental impact on him, I'm sure.
Yeah, so a lot of his, like, I went heavily into some of his skills.
Right.
Like he was a blacksmith. He actually, that's one of his motivations originally was he wasn't intending to be a hero. He was just kind of going to go do his everyday life. So he just traveled from the village to go do more blacksmithing and to make money for the family. So all his earnings would go back to the village, as part of his things. And so he did that. But then what ended up happening is he ran into some situations in some of the towns where there was a lot of slavery kind of thing happening. And that's when he took up the sword of Caden Kalian. So in the Pathfinder universe, Caden Kalian is like the god of freedom,
right?
And motivation. So he was so that's when he sparked this attitude of like fighting and doing more. So my character became a freedom fighter, basically.
Fantastic.
Of Caden Kalian. So he was all about justice with his longbow and longsword, just going to town, like freeing people and like being a moral principle and fighting against the ruling class and the oppressors.
Nice. Dave, what about Marcus? Because being an exotic weapon specialist anyway is going to have a little bit of its own flair. How was his character motivation? And
so he was mainly as far as like actual mechanics are concerned, he was all about doing just weird things that wouldn't be considered, I guess, like normal combat. A lot of it, like I was constantly doing acrobatic rolls, right? So I'd be like, well, I want to because a lot of I like to play with maps, and grids and things like that. I'm a war gamer at heart.
Gotcha.
So I like maps and grids. And so he would always be like trying to maneuver around opponents and things like that. As far as the character himself, like he was always about honor. Right? Because as a gladiator, right, his whole profession was, a lot of people see gladiators as being just like, blood sports. I mean, they are blood sports, but even in like Roman times and stuff like that, a lot of them were actually very close to like plays or theater, just with more killing and blood. But a lot of the times it had kind of that dual role, and a lot of gladiators actually played specific roles in either like epics or stories or things like that. So he was always about, honor and the glory and making things like a spectacle.
Right.
And even like when he was in town and you have your free actions to do, he had a fairly high performance ability. So he was always like, like sword juggling or doing like acrobatic like dances or maneuvers and things like that to be able to, I guess, like show off his like gladiatorial prowess.
Right.
So he was always just doing weird stuff. Lots of throwing weapons. So
nice. Yeah, making a name for himself.
Yeah,
I like it. Cool. And I guess for any of you, whoever wants to jump in, how would you see your character as an NPC?
Well, so that was the one thing that kind of happened, which I found out it was Second Darkness. That was the campaign. Okay. And so in that, it kind of, Thorum kind of changed in that thing because he was more of like an adventurer type, going out, fight the freedom,
right.
Take out the oppressors. But what ended up happening is in that campaign, spoilers, if anyone wants to play that real fast, but there's an opportunity to start or to take over a casino.
Yes. I like where this is going.
Being the entrepreneurial type, they took over a casino and did things. So he actually kind of settled down a little bit, but in the city, he kind of started a resistance movement is what he did.
Right.
And so he's a business owner and community kind of leader who, cares about the people he so it became very much like kind of like a community leader is what ended up happening.
Right.
But his days of adventuring, he took an arrow to the knee.
Yes.
And he's then became settled down, owned a casino, had a wife and kids. Take a trip to travel to see the parents, the in-laws, the other dwarves.
Right.
So
he sounds very kind of just blue collar, was just trying to make my way and fell into
his
wrong
way, and then he rises to the occasion with his Gatling gun of a bow because that's what Rangers do in Pathfinder.
Right. And then you take one to the knee, and then all you're doing is sitting and telling stories. So yeah,
telling stories. And
was the casino like a dwarven casino?
No, not at first. It was called. I think it's called the Gold Goblin. Is what it was. It's like a really seedy casino on the port, for sailors and stuff. But because of the things that happened in the game and the storyline, you end up finding all kinds of stuff. And the town of Riddleport sounds so optimistic. So there's all kinds of stuff that you get in trouble with. But
fantastic. What about Ed? How do you see Ed showing up in another game?
So if he were to show up in another game, man, he's like that crazy old man that shows up because as you progress in levels and you have those implants in your head, it constantly messes with your mental thing. So most crazies don't live long. If they do live long, they're the guy that disappears. And he's the NPC that's like this crazy old man that shows up and then is full of nonsense. And if you somehow get entangled with him, who the hell knows what's going on or what's going to happen and who's going to be here or there. And so he's the guy that if he lives that long, he's going to have quite a bit of treasure and stuff like that. And he'll go pay you to do some weird nonsense that's going to get you into trouble. It's going to lead to other stuff. And you go back, he's like, what are you talking about? I didn't pay you to do anything. And then walks away, right? That's where he'd show up in an NPC or at a random inopportune time to cause trouble and then leave out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's where he is at an NPC. He's you need someone to cause trouble for no reason and to get off the story and do something random. That's where he's at.
That sounds perfect.
I picture him being like a false plot line kind of thing where he just shows up to the party and is like, hey, there's this prophecy that's going on and I need you to go get me that guy's arm, that one right there. much like Guardians of the Galaxy with Rocket. I could see him definitely being that character.
Right.
The party spends, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 quests on him before finally coming back and he's like, I don't know who you guys are.
We've never met before.
Yeah.
And then the party realizes they've wasted all their time doing absolutely nothing. Yeah, they've made some money, gained some levels, but really they've accomplished absolutely jack because the prophecy's completely made up and he doesn't even know what's going on.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly where Ed would show up. He's the seedy corner of the thing and he's like, hey, I need you to go do this.
Right.
It's some weird thing.
They come back and he's just sitting in the corner mumbling I've seen the signs. What signs? The stop sign. Don't pass. One way.
That's where he's at.
Nice. All right. So what about Marcus? If we ran into him in another lifetime somewhere, how would he kind of show up?
I'd probably assume. He's not the brightest bulb in the bunch. So his quest is essentially more or less impossible.
Sure,
right?
yeah.
Unless it's by sheer luck. So he would probably still be, gallivanting throughout, from city to city and in the wilderness, looking for a person with good handwriting who is he convinced will be his true love. So, who knows what kind of quests that could actually open up to.
Right.
But most likely either wandering around on the common roads or in a tavern performing some kind of poem or sword juggling or in an arena even doing his job as a gladiator. So
absolutely, I definitely picture him as that statuesque kind of all for the glory when he's out in public, and then in the evenings walking around with his letter trying to get people to sign stuff for him. Could you write your name?
This?
Yeah, could you write your name on my pad?
Could you write this very specific sentence?
Because I can see that guy getting a Sharpie out. Can you write my abs real fast? Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Excuse me, could sign here.
Yeah. Flex for them so they have something to write on. Awesome. Awesome, guys. Cool.
You have nice handwriting.
Until he tries to figure out how to match it, and it's in the mirror. He's like,
I don't understand. Why is this one backwards? I don't get it. That's fantastic. Awesome, guys. Hey, so this has been, this is Ed, Sam, and Dave again from BA Games. Guys, it was great having you on. It was great talking just about the things that you've gone through to get your game up and running. This segment was fantastic. If you are looking for an NPC, whether you need a crazy red herring, whether you need somebody to sit on the stool and tell about how they got one in the knee but enjoy the casino for sure, or whether you need that person out in front being the statuesque look at me with kind of a tragic quest to finish, here's 3 great options for you that you can drop into your story anywhere. Guys, any parting shots?
Not really, man. I just enjoy, like, you guys have a great podcast. I've gone back and listened to it. It's been great, man. Like, I like the literal brotherhood as well as this, not all brothers get along. It's freaking great to see that is, other people just having fun. That's what the hobbies are about. And it's been a blast just, going over to your house, playing some games, doing that kind of thing, meeting you out of nowhere, and then doing this again. And we'll have to do it again, man. And if you're ever at some conventions, you see us, man, hit us up. We'd love to hang out.
Absolutely. Sam, Dave?
No, it's been interesting. This has been my first podcast, so it's been different.
Right.
Didn't really know what to expect, but I listened to your podcast, you guys' podcast a little bit, and so I really enjoyed it. I thought it was chill, so I'm just glad to be here and glad to participate.
Awesome. We appreciate it. We really do. Really do.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's nice and light, and it's got a nice vibe to it, which is, you can't necessarily say that about all podcasts, but it's just kind of chill, relaxed, and like, here's some value that we bring.
Right.
Take these characters, make some money, write them for Encanto or whatever you're going to do with them. And
right. Hey, Disney, if you're listening, don't you be sneaking off with our stuff again, too.
Yeah, if I see another human raised by dwarves, so help me, I'm suing.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Hey, this has been the Dapper Meeple. I'm Jim.
And I'm Josh.
Thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you guys next episode. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, go look up the guys over at BA Games.
You can find them at bagamesco.com. That's BAGAMESCO.com, or on Facebook at facebook.com/BA Gamesco.
The pre-order link for their game, Cult of the Deep, is up on their website, and if you want to give it a run, you can find it on Tabletop Simulator.
Thanks everyone for sticking around and listening to our show.
If you enjoyed it, let me ask you a favor. Follow us and leave us a like wherever you get your podcast. It really helps us out.
And if you have anything to say back to us, you can find us on Instagram and Facebook by searching for The Dapper Meeple. On Twitter, our handle is @TheDapperMeeple, or email us at dappermeeplegaming@gmail.com.
And as always, we'll save you a seat at the table.